Rain falls in sheets on Route 42, the kind that turns headlights into smears and swallows the centerline whole. Cole Harrington is driving home late. His delivery truck emptied the cab heater, working just well enough to keep him from being cold, when emergency lights appear through the trees ahead, red and blue too, still too fixed in place for a vehicle that should be moving. He pulls to the shoulder, steps out into the downpour. A patrol car lies on its roof in the ditch, steam rising from the crumpled hood wheels, spinning slowly in the air. A woman in a police uniform is on the ground beside it, one hand pressed to her abdomen, her badge catching the emergency lights the way a mirror catches the sun. She turns her head and finds his face in the dark. Her voice barely carries over the rain. They're still out there. If they see you stopped here, they'll come back. Run. Cole crouches down beside her anyway. He's not running anywhere. Cole Harrington wakes at 5:30 every morning in the house on Orchard Lane that used to hold more noise than it does now. The kitchen has 4 chairs, and only 2 see regular use. A crayon drawing of a dog is taped to the refrigerator his daughter Lily made it in 2nd grade, and neither of them has ever suggested taking it down. Lily is 10 years old, precise and observant in equal measure, the kind of kid who watches things long enough to understand them before she asks about them. She watches Cole pack her lunch each morning with the focused patience of a scientist running a familiar experiment. One morning last spring, she pointed to the scars on the backs of his hands, pale and dense, arranged with a regularity that doesn't suggest accidents, and asked how he got them. Cole told her it was from work a long time ago. Lily accepted this the way she accepts most of his incomplete answers, with a long, considering look that means she has filed it away for later. Cole is 42 years old and drives a delivery route for a regional supply company that hauls dry goods and hardware to rural stores across the county. He is quiet without being cold capable, without advertising it. He mows the lawn on Saturdays, attends Lily's school performances, without being the kind of parent who takes up too much room, goes to bed early most nights. His neighbors wave when they see him and don't ask questions, because there is something in Cole Harrington's manner, not unfriendliness, more like a settled quality, a completeness that makes questions feel like intrusions. He is an easy man to be around and a difficult man to know. And most people stop pursuing the second thing after a while, and he doesn't hold it against them. On his right wrist, he wears a black rubber bracelet, the letters stamped into it, worn to near illegibility over years of daily use, never leave a fallen. He has worn it for 5 years. Before that, he wore it in places with classified coordinates, stitching wounds by headlamp in the backs of moving vehicles, keeping men alive through injuries that had no business being survivable. Cole was a combat medic assigned to a special forces unit that operated in the gray regions of military action, the kind of deployments that show up as black rectangles in the official record. He was extraordinarily good at this work. He's not proud of being good at it. He is simply aware that most of the skills he carries are things he learned in conditions no rational person would choose to repeat. 5 years ago in November, his wife Anne was killed during a traffic stop on County Road 11. She had been a patrol officer for 7 years. The stop involved a vehicle with expired plates and what turned out to be 3 armed men moving product for a cartel organization that Cole had encountered twice during overseas operations. Not the same men, but the same network, the same cold structure of command. The stop lasted less than 2 minutes. The case went cold within 6 months. Cole honorably discharged the following spring, moved back into the house that had been theirs, and started driving. He has not opened a trauma kit in 5 years. He keeps one in the truck anyway, under a canvas tarp behind the passenger seat. He stopped asking himself why. It is 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday in November when Cole finishes his last run and takes Route 42 back through the forest corridor. The radio is off. The rain is loud and the wipers beat their steady rhythm and Cole is somewhere between awake and automatic. The long-distance driver's particular form of meditation when the emergency lights appear through the tree line. Wrong stillness. Wrong color pattern. He slows, studies the situation through the windshield, his phone showing no signal, which he already knew. This stretch of road is a dead zone for everything electronic. He sits with his hands on the wheel for 3 seconds, long enough to have a conversation with himself that goes nowhere, and then he opens the door and steps out into the rain. The wreckage is worse up close. The patrol car has rolled at minimum twice, coming to rest roof down in the ditch, with its rear wheels still turning. The driver's door is caved in at a brutal angle. The fuel smell hits him immediately, sharp and immediate under the cold rain, and the engine is ticking with the sound of machinery that has been through serious violence recently. Cole sweeps his flashlight and finds her at the edge of the ditch, a woman in a police uniform lying on her side, one hand pressed flat against a wound in her lower left abdomen. Officer Kate Brennan, though he doesn't know her name yet, 29 years old, 18 months on the job, stubborn in the particular way of people who became cops, because they meant it. He doesn't know any of that yet. He just sees the blood spreading dark through the fabric of her uniform and the fixed, deliberate quality of her breathing, and he takes inventory in the 2 seconds it takes him to reach her. He crouches and puts 2 fingers to her neck. Pulse weak present. Breathing rapid and shallow. Blood loss significant and ongoing. The wound is a deep laceration across the lower left quadrant, and without intervention, she has 10 minutes, maybe 12. His phone has no signal, and the nearest hospital is 17 miles away. All of this processes in approximately 4 seconds, and then Cole stands up and walks to his truck. He does not run. Running would cost him accuracy, and accuracy is what the next 20 minutes require. The trauma kit is where it has always been under the tarp, smelling faintly of the chemical sterilant they used in the field. He carries it back to Kate in the rain and kneels beside her without preamble. She is watching him approach, with her eyes half open, grip on her own wound, weakening. "Called backup 20 minutes ago," she says. Each word arriving separately, the way speech comes when talking costs something real. "They're not coming." She pauses, pulls her eyes back into focus. "I was following a suspect. Cartel connection. He ran me off the road." Cole opens the kit and begins moving through its contents with the fluency of something learned, deeper than conscious memory. "2 vehicles or 1?" he asks. "2, she says. "Maybe 6 men. They left." Cole nods. "Because they think you're already dead," he says. "Let's leave them thinking that." He works without explanation or reassurance, hemostatic gauze packed directly into the wound with sustained, firm pressure. Kate goes rigid and makes a sound through her teeth, but she doesn't pull away. Cole has packed wounds in worse conditions in moving vehicles in darkness, with equipment 3 deployments past its service date. His hands do not shake. They do not ask permission from the part of him that wanted to be done with this kind of work. He keeps his voice going while he works, not soothing, just present and factual. He asks about the case, and she tells him in fragments about 2 weeks of surveillance and a warehouse on the east side of the county, about a shipment she'd spotted moving through a truck stop, about going out alone tonight, because she thought she had a narrow window and couldn't afford to lose it. Cole listens and wraps the trauma bandage over the packed gauze tight and methodical, his fingers moving through a sequence that feels like a language he learned before he learned how to speak. The engine ignites when he is finishing the second wrap. A soft mechanical pop, almost gentle, and then the fuel catches, and the car becomes a column of orange light that turns the rain gold for 50 feet in every direction. Cole grabs Kate under both arms and moves fast and low, dragging her through the wet grass as heat blooms across the ditch behind them. They clear 45 feet when the secondary explosion hits a hard concussive pressure that flattens the rain and sends metal debris singing overhead. Cole is over Kate, with his forearms covering her head, and the force of it presses through his jacket like a hand pushing, and then it passes, and there is just the rain and the burning wreck, and Kate's breathing against the cold ground beneath him. Ragged. Present. She says, her voice muffled against his forearm, that she is unfortunately still there. The something in Cole's chest releases a fraction of an inch. He carries her the half-mile to the road in a fireman's carry, moving uphill through the rain at a pace that costs him something real. The wound dressing holds. Kate drifts, but doesn't lose consciousness, and when she speaks, it is in complete sentences, a good sign. She asks about the folded paper she can feel in his jacket pocket. Cole tells her it's a drawing from his daughter. She asks if he'll teach the girl what he just did out here. Cole takes 2 strides thinking about it. "I'm hoping she never needs to know," he says. Kate goes quiet. Then, "Your wife was a cop." It isn't a question. Cole's step doesn't falter. He just says yes, she was, and they walk the rest of the way in a silence broken only by rain and the distant orange glow behind them in the trees. A passing truck stops when it sees Cole at the road's edge. The driver takes one look and dials without being asked. 15 minutes later, the highway is a confusion of lights. Ambulance, 3 cruisers, a supervisor's SUV with its rack going. The veteran EMT who peels back Kate's uniform to assess the wound goes still. He calls his partner over, and they stand there studying the field, dressing with the particular expression of professionals examining someone else's work. "Military trauma care," the EMT says quietly. "Whoever did this, she'd have bled out in 10 minutes. Cole is standing 10 feet away in the rain, answering a deputy's questions. In a flat, patient voice, his jacket soaked through the black bracelet on his wrist, bright against his skin. Captain Frank Aldridge arrives at County General at 1:15 in the morning, with his jacket grabbed off the back of his chair, still smelling of the precinct. He is 58 years old, with 30 years on the job, and a stillness about him that belongs to people who have seen enough that surprise requires real effort. The surgeon meets him at the elevator and shows him a photograph on a tablet. Kate Brennan's wound, cleaned and stitched, the removed field dressing laid out beside it for scale. Aldridge looks at the photograph for a long time without speaking. "Who did this?" he says. The surgeon tells him it wasn't hospital work. It was done in the field in the dark, in the rain, without surgical lighting or a sterile environment. And whoever did it knew precisely what the situation required and had the training to supply it. Aldridge looks at the photograph again. The stitching is fine and confident. "Military," he says. "Without any question," the surgeon says. Detective Claire Sutton spends the following morning running the registration on the pickup truck logged at the scene. The name comes back, clean. Cole David Harrington, Orchard Lane, no criminal record, 1 traffic citation 3 years prior. She runs him through the military database, and what returns is mostly black bars, redacted and classified at multiple levels. What remains is enough to understand the shape of what was removed. Special Forces Combat Medic 7 deployments. Silver Star, honorably discharged 5 years ago following the line-of-duty death of his wife, Ann Harrington, patrol officer, County Road 11. Claire pulls Ann's case file, which she has never personally worked, but has heard mentioned in the long, cold category in department briefings. She reads it. Then she closes it and sits still for a moment. Then she calls Aldridge and tells him he needs to see this in person. They gather in the conference room, Aldridge, Claire, and her partner, Detective Paul Garrett. Ann Harrington's case file sits on the table alongside Cole's military record and the intelligence note at the back of Ann's file, a federal memo dated 2 years after the shooting, connecting the vehicle stopped on County Road 11 to the same cartel organization that has been operating in the county for a decade. the same organization that ran Kate Brennan off the road on Route 42 3 nights ago. Claire sets the two files side by side without comment. The room is quiet for a moment. Outside, it is raining again. He has been here for 5 years, Garrett says finally. Right here, driving his route. Quiet. Aldridge is looking at Anne Harrington's patrol photo, young and direct in her uniform, recognizable as someone doing exactly what she intended to be doing with her life. He turns the photograph face down and stands up. We need to go talk to him, he says. Cole is making pancakes when the doorbell rings at 8 in the morning. He doesn't look through the window because he saw the unmarked car park from the kitchen and recognized the particular way investigators park when they're attempting to look casual. He wipes his hands on a dish towel and glances at Lily, who has looked up from her homework with the alert expression of a kid who has caught a shift in the atmosphere. He says her name quietly. She looks at the door, then back at him. Are you in trouble? She asks. He says a little probably, but nothing serious, she shouldn't worry. She holds his gaze for a beat longer than strictly necessary, the long calibrating look, and then she gathers her books and goes down the hall. Cole waits until he hears her door, and then he opens the front door. Aldridge, Claire, and Garrett stand on the porch in the November cold. Cole invites them in, and they sit in the living room, which is modest and unhurried looking, the furniture chosen for use rather than presentation. Claire takes note of the shadow box on the wall, Purple Heart bronze star. Silver star at the center, arranged with the careful placement of things that matter to someone who doesn't talk about them. She points to it. Is that yours? Cole looks at the shadow box with the expression of someone who has made peace with what it represents. Old life, he says. The conversation moves through its expected phases. Cole's account of the previous night, his medical background, the training behind his fieldwork. He is precise and cooperative, and gives nothing extra. Aldridge watches him with the patience of a man taking long-term measurements. Then Aldridge sets it out plainly. A decorated Special Forces combat medic has been driving a delivery route for 5 years in the same county where his wife was killed by the same organization that just sent a car to kill another officer. Cole's hands resting on his knees tighten fractionally. He says he doesn't know what Aldridge is implying. Aldridge says he isn't implying anything. He is stating facts and waiting to see what Cole does with them. The room is quiet. Rain taps at the windows. From down the hall, barely audible, comes the sound of Lily's pencil on paper. Cole looks at the medals on the wall for a moment. Then he says, slowly and deliberately, that he has a daughter who needs a father. Aldridge says he understands that. He also says that without someone who knows how this organization operates, more officers die. More families lose someone. He sets the photograph of Anne Harrington's case file on the coffee table between them, not as a manipulation, just as a fact that belongs in the room. Cole picks up the photograph, sets it down, stands and goes to the window, and looks at the street at the ordinary neighborhood that has been his entire world for 5 years. Then he turns around. I'll consult, he says. Nothing more. I stay out of the field. I don't carry. I review your operational plans and I train your officers in tactical trauma care. He looks at Aldridge directly. And when I say something is too dangerous, that's the end of the conversation. Aldridge stands and extends his hand. Cole shakes it. It is a brief, functional handshake. Two men who understand each other well enough to do business. Nothing more complicated than that. Training begins on a Monday. Cole stands in the department's multi-purpose room, with 15 officers arranged before him, most of them watching with the particular blend of skepticism and professionalism that police officers bring to outside instruction. Kate Brennan is in the front row, not yet cleared for full duty, but present regardless, sitting slightly forward the way people sit when they're still managing pain, but unwilling to let it dictate their schedule. Cole sets his bag on the table and begins without preamble. He holds up a tourniquet. The first 60 seconds of a traumatic incident determine whether the person in front of you lives or dies, he says. I'm here to teach you how to use those 60 seconds. He is a different version of himself up here, not warmer exactly, but more present, as if the work has found him rather than the other way around. He corrects technique with brief and specific observations. He doesn't raise his voice. He moves through the room with the authority of someone who has no interest in performing authority. After the session, Kate finds him putting his equipment away. She says she heard about his wife. He says Aldridge told more people than he would have preferred. She says she is sorry. He says she doesn't need to be sorry she wasn't there. There is a pause while Kate appears to be deciding something. Then she says the department has been building toward a warehouse raid on the east side of the county for 2 months, the cartel's local operation hub. Intelligence suggests the organization is preparing to relocate in the next 3 weeks. They want Cole there as tactical advisor. Cole zips his bag closed. Command vehicle, he says. Not the ground. Kate says that works. They stand there for a moment in the empty training room, the fluorescent lights humming, the afternoon rain tapping at the frosted windows. The intelligence file on Victor Reyes arrives 3 days before the raid. Reyes is 37 years old, born in Sonora, educated in Houston, and has been running the cartel's distribution corridor in the Mid-Atlantic region for 6 years. He is not the kind of man his position might suggest. There is nothing theatrical in this file, no trace of the blunt menace that shows up in recruitment propaganda. He is methodical and patient and intensely practical. The intercepted communications transcript included in the file is a voice call between Reyes and a superior, conducted 2 weeks earlier. Reyes discusses the Brennan incident in the flat tone of someone noting a shipping discrepancy. He refers to the surviving officer as a procedural matter requiring resolution before relocation. Cole reads the transcript twice. Then he turns to the section where Reyes discusses the warehouse and reads it a 3rd time and underlines one sentence regarding the rear exit protocol. Then he picks up the phone and calls Aldridge. In the conference room the following morning, Cole lays the transcript open and points to the relevant passage. Reyes had anticipated a law enforcement approach and pre-positioned a failsafe at the rear exit doorframe, a pressure trigger connected to a shaped charge. Anyone breaching from outside would arm it on contact. Cole had encountered the same configuration during 2 overseas operations, and the signature in Reyes's language describing it was unmistakable. He explains this to Aldridge and Claire and the tactical team leader without editorializing. Team 3 must hold at the rear. No breach, no approach within 30 feet of the door. He'll run for it when the front goes in, Cole says. The tactical team leader asks how Cole knows Reyes will run himself rather than send someone. Cole taps the transcript. Because that's the kind of operator he is. He handles his own loose ends. The transcript tells you that across 4 pages if you know what you're reading. The morning of the raid is cold and gray, a low November sky that hasn't decided yet whether to produce rain. Cole sits in the mobile command vehicle with Aldridge and communications officer Danny Walsh, a bank of screens showing the positions of 3 teams around the warehouse perimeter. Radio traffic is clipped and disciplined. Team 1 is positioned at the front loading dock. Team 2 holds the south flank. Team 3, 6 officers, including Kate Brennan back on full duty, as of 3 days prior, is positioned 200 feet from the rear door with explicit orders to hold that distance. Outside, the gray morning is quiet. In less than an hour, it will not be. Cole watches the rear camera feed on the center screen. The drone positioned 20 feet above the rear of the building gives him a clear view of the door frame, the subtle protrusion of the trigger housing the wire running up the right side of the jamb. He points it out to Walsh, who marks it in the operational log and relays it to Team 3. Aldridge gives the green light at 7:12 in the morning, and the radio fills with the sound of movement, and the front door comes in, and the noise reaches them. A beat later, flashbangs, shouted commands. The immediate answering chaos of men who know they are trapped and are working through their calculations. Cole watches the rear camera. He waits. Victor Reyes appears at the rear of the building in under 90 seconds. He's not running. He moves with a deliberate, unhurried quality, a man executing a plan he prepared, rather than reacting to someone else's. He has a detonator in his right-hand thumb, resting on the switch, with the relaxed confidence of someone who has rehearsed this, and he walks to within 4 feet of the door and stops. He doesn't look panicked. He looks like a man who has arrived exactly where he expected to arrive. Cole picks up the radio before Aldridge does. Team 3, hold your position. There is a pressure trigger on that door frame. Do not approach the door. Do not get closer. A beat of radio silence, then Kate's voice steady and clear. Copy. We see him. He has a detonator. Aldridge patches in the negotiator, and a practiced, calm voice opens the channel to Reyes establishing dialogue. Reyes doesn't respond immediately. He stands with his thumb on the switch and studies the door with the patience of someone who has decided to be patient. When he finally speaks, it is outward into the air, not into a radio, a flat declaration that the switch is a dead man configuration, that anyone who approaches will trigger a permanent arm, that he wants a vehicle and corridor of exit. Cole listens to this. He studies the camera feed. He watches the way Reyes is standing, weight on the left foot, right arm at his side, grip on the detonator loose, and professional, not white-knuckled. Not the posture of a final act, a negotiating position. The difference matters enormously. Cole speaks into the radio at a specific and deliberate volume. Kate. The switch in his hand is a single trigger, not dead man. If he releases thumb pressure without the trigger, depressed, nothing happens. Silence on the channel. Then, copy that. Another silence. 5 seconds. 10. On the screen, Reyes turns, slightly scanning, trying to locate the voice that just told his opposite number, something he didn't want them to know. His weight shifts fractionally toward the door. Not much, but enough. Cole says quietly, "Take it." The shot is immediate and clean, and Reyes goes down, and the detonator hits the concrete floor of the warehouse and rolls to a stop without incident. The teams sweep in from 3 sides, and it is over in 4 minutes. 6 cartel members in custody, no officers down the building secure. Aldridge exhales slowly through his nose. On the radio, Team 1's leader calls the structure clear, in a voice that is fighting not to sound relieved and not entirely winning. Cole sets down the radio and folds the warehouse diagram and puts it in his jacket pocket without ceremony. The debriefing is 2 hours later in the mobile command vehicle, everyone still carrying the over-focused quality that follows adrenaline. Aldridge addresses the room with the practiced economy of a man who has run many of these operations and knows the difference between the ones that went correctly and the ones that merely appear to have. He talks about team positioning communication, discipline, operational intelligence. He mentions Cole's name once in the specific context of the rear door assessment. No editorializing. Cole is at the back of the room, and he neither acknowledges the mention nor deflects from it. He is somewhere else for a moment, looking at the middle distance, running a quiet internal calculation that has nothing to do with the operation, and everything to do with a case file that is 5 years old and a county road 11 miles from here. Kate finds him outside afterward. She hands him a paper coffee cup and he takes it. They stand in the thin gray morning sun without saying much. Then Kate says the investigators who processed the warehouse basement found a secondary cache, documents, operational histories, financial records going back 6 years. She says there were references in the files to several historical incidents, including one from 5 years ago on County Road 11. She delivers this quietly and carefully, in the manner of someone who understands the weight of what she is handing over and is doing it anyway because the person in front of her has earned the right to know. Cole looks down at the bracelet on his wrist. He says, "Thank you." Kate says she'll keep him updated. They finish their coffee and go in opposite directions across the parking lot. 3 weeks later, Detective Claire Sutton appears at Cole's front door at 7 in the evening with a manila folder under her arm. Lily is at the kitchen table doing homework, and Cole sends her down the hall before he opens the folder on the coffee table between them. 3 photographs, 3 faces. One of them Cole has seen before in a different context, during a briefing in a country that does not appear on any official document. The men who killed Ann Harrington on County Road 11 have been identified and arrested, 2 in the County 1 in Atlanta. The federal case connecting them to the cartel operation is, Claire says, airtight. She doesn't editorialize. She just lays it out and sits back. Cole looks at the 3 photographs for a long time. There is no satisfaction in his expression and no particular anger. There is something quieter than either the particular stillness of a door that has finally been closed all the way and latched. He sets the folder down. "Thank you," he says. "That's all?" He visits Ann's grave on a Saturday morning in early December before the cemetery fills up. Lily comes with him, which is not unusual. They make the drive twice a year, reliable as the seasons, and Lily has long since stopped needing instruction on what to say or how to behave. She brings wildflowers from the gas station on the way and arranges them in the holder with the practical care she brings to everything she does. Cole stands beside the headstone for a while with his hands in his pockets. The bracelet is on his wrist. As always, the letters faded, but present. He looks at the stone. Ann's name, the dates, the small inlaid badge motif that had been Lily's request when they chose it. And then he takes the bracelet off and sets it on the flat top of the headstone. Carefully, deliberately, the way you set something down when you are not discarding it, but you are not holding it either. Lily watches him from 3 feet away, holding the empty flower wrapper in both hands. She doesn't say anything. After a while, Cole takes her hand in his. They stand there together in the cold winter morning until they are ready to go. Before they leave, Cole picks the bracelet back up. He puts it in his jacket pocket. Not on his wrist, in his pocket where it can travel with him without pulling at him. 11 months after the raid, the sign above the door of a rented storefront on Cartwright Avenue reads, "Harrington First Response," training in plain black letters on a white background. Inside 4 evenings a week and all day. Saturday, Cole teaches emergency trauma care to civilians, nurses' aides, school teachers, long-haul truck drivers, retired couples who live 40 minutes from the nearest hospital and want to know what to do in those 40 minutes. The curriculum is 8 weeks. The certification is federally aligned. The waiting list is 3 months long, and Cole has never placed a single advertisement. He has learned in the past year that word of mouth among people who are afraid of being helpless when it matters is essentially self-sustaining. Lily is 11 now and sits in the back of the room on Saturday mornings, while her father teaches working on homework with one ear on the session. She has, without making any announcement about it, begun paying attention during the practical portions. She sets up the training mannequins when Cole needs help. She times the students on their tourniquet applications with a stopwatch and calls out the seconds in a matter-of-fact voice that makes the adults try harder. Cole has noticed this. He hasn't said anything about it yet. He's waiting for her to ask, which she will in her own time, in the slow and deliberate way she has always approached the things she wants to understand. 6 weeks into the current session, a woman named Dorothy Walsh, 61 years old, retired librarian, enrolled because she wanted to be useful. If something happened to her husband on one of their hiking trips, arrives for morning class, pale and still carrying the particular vibration of someone who has just been through something. She had been driving to the training center when she witnessed a rear-end collision on Franklin Avenue. A young man thrown from his vehicle, a forearm laceration, bleeding badly. Dorothy had pulled over. She had gotten out. She had worked through the pressure sequence she'd learned 5 weeks earlier, calmly and completely. And when the ambulance arrived, The young man was stable and asking for his phone. She tells this in the 10 minutes before class starts, sitting in her folding chair with both hands wrapped around her coffee cup. The room is very quiet. Cole listens from the front without any visible expression. When she finishes, he nods once. "That's exactly what this is for," he says. He picks up a tourniquet from the table beside him. "Let's run the pressure sequence again." After class, Cole locks up and walks to his truck in the empty parking lot. The evening is cold and clear, a winter sky going dark at the edges. He stands beside the driver's door for a moment, in the cold, not thinking about anything in particular, which is its own kind of thing. The ability to stand still without the weight of something unresolved pressing through the quiet. He reaches into his jacket pocket. The bracelet is there, as coiled against his fingers. He holds it for a moment. Then he puts it in the cup holder on the center console, where it will ride home beside him, where Lily will probably ask what it says, and he will tell her, where it will be neither forgotten nor carried as a wound. He starts the truck and pulls out of the lot and drives the 8 miles home through the county, past the stretch of road where he found Kate, past the intersection, where Route 42 cuts through the forest. He doesn't slow down. He just drives through it going home.